Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 85 of our trip around the United States. We're still about half a day ahead from our change of plan yesterday, so we're going to combine the end of yesterday's route with today's route, which gives us about 300 miles even from here to Duluth. It's almost a straight shot directly east from here. We're starting off here in the city of Bagley with a great view over the lake, and we're going to take Aichan on a walk around the park so that she can wear down some of that energy before we really get our road miles started for the day. I have every expectation that we're going to make it to Duluth by the end of the day, and we might even get to start into some of our target lists for Duluth. I guess we'll see if that's actually going to happen once we get to the end of the day. Today has a few interesting looking virtuals and several caches with a lot of favorite points on it. So I think we're going to have some really interesting sights to see, and I'm hoping we're going to have some really good caches to find. Only one way to find out, so come on, let's go do exactly that. Our first stop of the day was in Mahnomen. There wasn't a whole lot going on this early in the morning, but there was a lot of great murals to see in town. We stopped to grab a couple of shots, a couple of caches, and then we were on our way again. Those fall colors are really starting to come in sharp all around the northern end of the state. Everywhere that we drive, the trees are starting to turn yellows, oranges, and reds. Some of them really pop out from the others. If you're used to fall, this may not be all that impressive, but coming in from out of Florida, this is really something. Most of the geocaches that we found today were pretty standard, but this one stood out from the crowd. Can you spot it? No, it's a pretty tough one. That is great camo right there. Without a good hint on this geocache, I would have spent significantly more time trying to track it down. You could say that I'm trained to look for geocaches a certain way. But let's not get off track here. Just one more find and then we'll move on with our day. So fire up those engines and let's chug along. All aboard! The biggest town we visited today was Bemidji, which is the county seat of Beltrami County. Featuring a population of around 15,000, it's the largest commercial center between Grand Forks and Duluth. And our first stop in town was the Freedom Defenders Veterans Memorial. Charles Lindbergh stands front and center at the memorial on a 6-foot pillar with 2 bronze plaques around him. Behind him is man's best friend, an unsung hero in America's storied past. Rather than emblems of each of the service, they're represented on these cut stone blocks with a service member from each branch of the military. If you look closely at the details, you'll see subtle shadings and bright lines of colors which really make each of these memorials pop. It's a really well done memorial and kind of a secret that a lot of people don't know about. It's also one of the few that includes a tribute to the U.S. Merchant Marines because they often seem to get left out on a lot of veterans memorials we've seen. Another very interesting thing about this city is the sculpture walk it features. Since 1999, the city has been displaying works of arts by area artists throughout their downtown area. Over 25 sculptures can be seen on this walk, and they're rotated every 2 to 3 years. They're also all available for sale. Each sculpture is carefully chosen to reflect some aspect of Minnesota life. The thing that Bemidji is most known for, however, is being the home of Paul Bunyan. Yes, I realize he's a fictional character, and yes, I realize many other towns claim him as a hometown as well. But I'm going to go ahead and toss in my lot with Bemidji and say they get the claim to fame for me. I had tried to get the dog to tour Paul Bunyan Park with me, but she wasn't having it. It turns out she was a little bit wiser than I was. She must have known that the weather was going to change. Because while I was out here getting these amazing shots of the park, the weather suddenly changed for the worst. I hustled my way back to the car, but it was too late. It was soaking wet by the time I was able to make it over there. The rain was on and off from there, so we just made quick hops in and out of the car, appreciating the fish that we saw along our route. And yes, there were a couple of doozies for us to check out. And even better, we made finds at both of them too. As we drove through Itasca, we decided to drop into Grand Rapids to check out the local sites. We didn't actually have any targets on our list here, but the artwork that we saw around town pulled us in. With a population of around 11,000, Grand Rapids traces its lineage back to the time as a logging town when the paper mill opened in 1902. At the Forest History Center, you can even tour a living history museum that recreates life as it was in the turn of the century as a logging camp. We did do a drive-by on the museum, but it was closed, so we stuck to the sites around the city, of which there were plenty to take in. But we only managed to see a small fraction of the 23 art sites and 25 historic sites around town. Might as well take a load off in Paul Bunyan's chair before our next stop. Chisholm would have been a quick pass through if not for the Veterans Memorial here as well. Bracketed by a Minnesota National Guard UH-1H Iroquois Huey helicopter, an M60A3 tank, and a Lockheed F-94C Starfire, it is impossible to miss this memorial when you're driving down the highway. And with the weather that we're having today, all of the flags were rippling in the wind. And as we saw earlier today in Bemidji, all of the services were represented here, including the Merchant Marines. I personally thought all of the service emblems located directly under the flags was a nice touch. Through a window on one side of the memorial, you can also view the Iron Man statue, and this is by no accident. Iron workers are honored here too, right alongside our veterans, for all the contributions they made to the war efforts. And standing at 85 feet tall, this really helps to garner the attention. Our daylight was starting to run out by the time we reached Virginia, but we had just enough time to enjoy the trail on a walk out to the Virginia High Bridge via the High Bridge Trail. In total, the trail is about 31 miles long, but we were able to park a half mile from the bridge and walk through the park to get up to the viewpoint. I guess the dog knew it wasn't going to rain down on us this time because she actually decided to join me for the walk. Once a rail bed, this trail is now a very wide paved path that makes a subtle slope up toward the bridge. So subtle, in fact, that the dog didn't even realize she was climbing uphill to get there. There are a couple of geocaches to find along the way, and even the stage to an adventure lab, but the real draw to us was the viewpoint from the top of the bridge. The relatively new virtual here does a good job of getting you right out to the center to answer the question needed. Not that we would have passed up on the opportunity for a view like this anyway. One of the most gorgeous views of the state we've had yet. And just like that, another day geocaching on the road out here in Minnesota comes to an end. Man, I'm really starting to miss that daylight. That sun is sinking earlier and earlier every day, and we are feeling it. We're not done yet for the day. We've still got a trekking to Aurora, it's just down the road, and then from there we're gonna finish off in Duluth. We're definitely gonna make it to Duluth before the end of our day, but we're definitely not gonna make it before the sun goes down. Not that we've seen a whole lot of it today. It's been a pretty dreary, drizzly day here in the state. It hasn't been raining all day necessarily, but it's been wet all day long. The one time that it did rain on us today, the dog outsmarted me on it. I tried to get her out of the car to walk with me. She wasn't having it. Once I was a few thousand feet from the car, it started pouring down and there was nothing to it. Fortunately, the gear that I wear is very good for rain. My pants are water repellent, my boots are very water resistant, and my shirts are made out of a wicking material. So even though they get wet, they don't stay wet very long. And in the summertime, they cool me really nicely. One thing that I have noticed the farther up we've climbed is the population numbers are consistently low in all these towns we're going through. Most of them don't pop out of the triple digits. A couple we've been through today make it into the thousands, but not by a whole heck of a lot. The other thing that was really funny today is I kind of felt like it was a bad luck day for me. We found a lot of geocaches that had been muggled today, where we either found evidence of the camo job but the container was gone, or the container was open and the swag is scattered everywhere, or the logbook was just out in the open. It was quite a common theme today. I reported each one to the cache owners with pictures so they know what's going on, but you know, it is what it is. All in all, it's been a pretty good day out here. We really enjoyed the scenery. The fall colors are great. They're really coming in vibrant on some of these trees, and over the next few days, I'm hoping they get even more so. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you. Like this video, subscribe for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.